First, good day to you one and all, and welcome to West Province Sports and GT Masters. Today, going to be something completely different. The track that the guys know pretty well, but in a slightly different style of motorcar in tonight's racing as to what they were with on this circuit previously. Road America, season number 7. Can you believe it? Season number 7, race number 8 already. We're right at the end of 2022. Joining me in the studio, the man from Yo Stasi, the man from Rage Productions, our regular voice of motorsport throughout oval track racing in South Africa, Mr. FC Nivo. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Gaza. Lovely to be back in the studio with you guys for another exciting round of the Western Province Sports and GT Master Series. As Gary says, coming to you from Road America out at Elkhart Lake in Wisconsin, United States. Track length 6.41 kilometers. Temperature out by the track. The track surface temperature about 33 degrees with an air temperature of 18 degrees out there. 4% chance of precipitation, but we do have clear skies and very low wind out there. The guys out on circuit already for qualifying. We've got a 10-minute qualifying session out there, and we are out on track with Ati Nagel in the Porsche.
Well, we normally start with certain people and what have you, but Ati Nagel, probably the big success story of 2022, and really just going quicker and quicker, so I thought we'd open up with him tonight. The man from the motorcar industry, Herman Lazarus, always out there in his favorite blue color, and looks like he's going to be a man all on his own. The Hurricane McLaren, the only one out on circuit today, the man from cheapercars.co.za. Pretty Hubert out there as well, and what a lovely spray job that is.
Yeah, nice gold colors out there for Peter Hubert out in the Mercedes AMG GT3. And then we've got the man out there in the Louder Cars Porsche. That is nobody else than our own Captain Peter van der Spy, working his way around the circuit as well. Out in the Van der Linde colored BMW, that is Gerald Fourie.
Well spotted.
Well, I got that hint from Tiny, our local College of Knowledge, sitting on the in the studio here, giving us some information as well. But that is the Van der Linde color scheme on that Fourie car. Monster Energy, that is always the colors that we'll see out there for Johan Fourie, busy working his way around Road America as well to set up a time.
Yep, and there's Robbie Teens, the man we like to refer to as the Boltman, as we have a look-see. That's what a Road America looks like. Johan Engelbrecht, one of our slightly older, elderly statesmen, that is one of the quick guys out there. And then local Carter and man about motorsport, Andre Steenkamp. He's got the Martini colors, and well, he's sporting that Porsche. That's the Porsche... Which one? The 911?
That's the 911 GT3.
The 911 GT3. So, don't forget about the likes of that man, Graham Stephen, in the Best Water Technologies Mercedes-Benz. Jan Spalmers, one of our international racers that's done duty with us on a regular basis. Sandro Bakari, a man that always likes to help in the background. And then Gerald Maget, going from strength to strength. I see he's out there today in the Mercedes-Benz as well. And having been overseas for a period of time, Timothy Stanton also joining us out there. And well, it looks like he's probably coming around for the second time around the circuit, and that means he'll probably be one of the first people that's going to put a lap time up. Nope, it's going to be Willem Pinaar. And well, for a second, Willem Pinaar could have said I headed it out, because Luke Lucchese goes to the top of the pack.
Yeah, Luke Lucchese goes to the top there with a 2-minute 1.823. Ati Nagel tried to challenge him, but Peter Hubert also blindingly quick. In this part of the season, he's out there in that third position. He gets knocked down to third, with Francois Hubert getting in there on a 2-minute 2.234. All of them still a second off the pace there from Luke Lucchese, or half a second, shall I say. The difference in pace there between Francois Hubert and Lucchese at the front end of the field.
Peter van der Spy pops it up into a sixth position, just outside of the top 5. Timothy Stanton put in a pretty quick first lap out there. See, Johan Engelbrecht comes into 12th position on the grid. And, well, remember, they go out for a sighting lap, a warm-up lap. But then the computer says, okay, let's go into 2 flying laps. And that inside of that 10-minute barrier that they've got.
Well, Gary, just have a look there. Who popped up in that fourth position? Gerald Fourie. Fourie hasn't been out in this class a full season, and he is flying out there in that fourth position, 6/10 of a second off of our pace setter Luke Lucchesi, who is 4/10 ahead of Francois Hubert, and only literally half a second between Lucchesi and Johan Fourie. That's going to be a tight group. They know these cars pretty well. The GT3s are cars that the guys know really, really well. They know how to pilot them around the circuit, and I do think this circuit's going to bring up some magic racing.
Well, I'm sure most of you have seen that the MSA 2023 GTE series has now been loaded and lodged and linked with MSA, and going from the old style GTE to, in fact, this version GT3, and that is why I think they're actually practicing with these cars now, because the MSA 2023 series is going to be, I think that one is going to be, the qualifiers are going to start around about the 18th of January, and probably find the top 30 will go through to the MSA GT3 series, and the next 30 or 40, it might even be 40, will end up staying in the GT3. The balance will go to the Porsche Cup, and that's a Pro-Am series that they're going to be having there. 6 minutes 49 down in our qualifying session. 2 races of 25 minutes. The qualifying will determine your initial starting position for race number 1. But FC, I don't know if you picked it up anywhere, but I'm not sure. Are they going to do an inverted grid for heat number 2, or partial invert? Or do they restart where they ended? I think it's going to be a top 10 or a top 8 invert.
I had a look at I know in some of the previous races, some of the guys complained about that. So I think if you think back to last week, we had a basic where you finish in the race, that's where you started race number 2. So I do think that is going to be, but we'll see when we get to that point. But getting back to the MSA series, that one also for 2023 for full on national colors, your SA national colors for the champion in the MSA series next year.
Exactly the same as if you had to do it live out there on the main circuits around South Africa. That's what this one's going to count for. Just 2 minutes and 10 seconds still to go. You'll see on the slide outs, some of the guys already into the pits. That means they've already completed their time. Outside of the top 15, surprisingly not having a good out there, is Dawie Joubert, and he's done 1 flyer so far.
Yeah, Dawie Joubert sitting down there in that 17th position, 2 seconds off the pace from the pole sitter. And he's going to have to work a bit. I don't know if he's going to get time to put in another lap, a proper lap, to get some heat into those tires and improve on that time. I mean, he's going to start it now. Unless he's on a flyer now, I don't see him improving on that time with the time remaining on the board. There he crosses the line. He didn't improve on that time.
At 2:04 as opposed to the 2:01.8. Remember, there it cuts him off, so that's as far as he'll be able to go. 2 people that have linked into the system but have not done any laps. Eugene Manouk, he's out there with a Ferrari, and then Jaco Steyn, the man that posted his first maiden victory just 3 weeks back, I think it was, as Andre Steenkamp comes across the line, and he puts up a pretty decent time. That's what it looks like from our eye in the sky. And I tell you what, I don't think it's as green at the moment there now, because it's kind of hot that side of the world.
Well, actually, this is in Wisconsin in the USA. It's actually supposed to be kind of cold there at the moment.
In fact, in hindsight, thinking about it, it's actually the temperatures have already dropped that side of the world, and you'll pretty find that what we see there is the way it is. Luke Lucchesi comes in. I see Ati Nagel has already come in as well. There's only still Sways Hubert that is really trying to fill in another lap. He's not going to make it. If you can look at the track map, you'll see on that long line at the bottom, that's the front main, and where he is in position number 11 with the green circle around it, and with 7 seconds to go, I think it's that's as far as he's going to go with the Liqui Moly car. And the computer will say have a nice day and cut everybody off, and then we'll be able to see where we're going to be standing on the grids.
Right, that is your grid for race number 1, the first 25-minute race that we'll have out there. Luke Duquesne for Pantera Racing on pole position. Alongside him on the front row, Francois Hubert. Then row number 2 sees Johan Fourie and Gerald Fourie line up next to each other. Peter Hubert and Ati Nochel rounds off your third row with Peter van der Spey and Timothy Stanton on row number 4.
Yep, that's the front 8. Graham Stephen from Jan Spammers, Swys Hubert and Andre Steenkamp all inside of the top 12. Johan Engelbrecht, Sandro Bakari with Robbie Teens rounding out the top 15.
Yeah, Stephen McCarthy lines up in that 16th position with Davy Hubert, Willem Pinaar, Gerald Maget and Herman Lazarus in that 20th position.
Well, look at that. And, well, I think there's actually a couple more behind that. That's a size field. Look at that.
Colin Plitt in that 21st position, Leonardo Bakari, and then Jaco Steyn, Renier Hubert, and Eugene Minuk. That is your 25 drivers that will be taking to the circuit for round number 8 of Sports and GT Master Series.
So Jaco Steyn coming off the back end of the pack. That's going to be something else. And we've seen how blindingly quick he can be with his new equipment and looking pretty good out there. So 3 out of 4 of the front 2 rows of the grid, BMWs, M3s.
Yeah, those are actually M4s, the M4 BMW used in the GT3 series. And while we're waiting there, it looks like we're waiting for Johan Engelbrecht to make his way to the pits, and then also Eugene Minuk to get to the grid. And then we can get this race started out here for heat number 1. There comes Engelbrecht in the black Mercedes. It doesn't look like Minuk's going to make it to the start line. The light box appearing on the screen, which means we're going to get a lights out pretty soon and get this race underway.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pity that he hasn't actually made it to the line. Well, they're going to start with the formation lap. There they start working their way off the line. I'm going to give you a nice chopper view. Let's see how it looks from upstairs. They'll work their way down towards turn number 1. Some lovely camera positions on this Road America circuit. Out there in GT3s today. Look at the size of that field. 25 cars out there on circuit. The season number 7 of Sports and GT Masters. A massive big thank you to Dr. Mike Verrier that actually got this whole lot going and started for us. And the way it's evolved since there is, wow, utterly amazing.
Yeah, definitely getting bigger and bigger out here, and the guys are really enjoying themselves out in the Sports and GT Master Series. And this is a good training ground for some of the older gentlemen that can't get behind the rig as often as they would like to get the necessary experience to do well in a series like the MSA series as well. So you'll see a lot of these names out in action in the MSA categories. But the cars are working their way around Road America, and we're close to getting those green lights on and get racing in Wisconsin.
25 minutes, 25 liters of fuel, and as far as I understand, that opens up a very wide window in terms of when you can actually make your pit stops. So if you have problems near to the beginning, you can actually fuel it fat, as they say in the classics, and you can then run for the rest of that 25 minutes like that. Luke Duquesne, Francois Hubert, teammates for the 6 hour, and now they find themselves going one-on-one on the front row of the grid. Ex-South African multiple main circuit champion Johan Fourie with Peter Hubert alongside one another for the second row. And then, well, Peter van der Spey, I think he'll be super chuffed with that one. Gerald Fourie right in there as well.
Yeah, well, if you look at that top 3, Gary, those are your top 3 title winners as well in the Western Province Sports and GT Master Series over the last couple of seasons. All the championships have gone between those 3 drivers. So this is going to be a straight-out shootout between your champions. This is actually like a champion of champions race here with that top 3 at the front end of the field. As they make their way towards the final corner, we're ready to get this. Oh, they're nowhere even close to the final corner.
Nope, they're still a long way away. There was just a shot that I thought I'd show you. I think that's a lovely shot that they've got there on the start line. And that's pretty much, it gives you an idea of the elevation. A lot of these shots you can see there's quite a bit of elevation, but I personally feel that that one gives you quite an idea of the climb that you get going up onto the level with the pits. On the left hand side of that shot is in fact where the pits are. And as they work their way around now, you can see we are just 3 corners away from action aplenty. But FC, what can I say? Where we started with sports and GT, moving along to sports and GT Masters, it's been utterly amazing.
Yeah, look, definitely. It's if there's one good thing that came out of COVID, it's the fact that we get to do this on a regular basis.
Definitely, no doubt about it.
Right, making their way down to turn number 14 and back out onto the main straight is your pole sitter Luc Lucchesi and Francois Hubert. They're making their way around the final corner, and we'll get those green lights on pretty soon. And when the lights go out, we will be racing here at Road America in the United States. The green flag is up high, and we are ready to go racing as they make their way over that little bump. The Porsche pace cars pulled off into the pit area, and they're making their way to the line. The green lights are on and the flag goes down, and we are racing. It's Sports and GT Master Series. Off the line they go, and that whole gaggle of cars, 24 of them out there. Eugene Minuk not making it to the grid as they all barrel down into turn number 1. It is Lucchesi that leads them ahead of Francois Hubert, then Johan Ferry, Peter Hubert. We made it past Gerald Ferry as they all it looks like they all make it through turn number 1 as they head into turn number 2. Now it's Lucchesi from Hubert, from Ferry, from Peter Hubert, then Atti Nachels worked his way up into P5 as Gerald Ferry starts slipping down the field.
Well, he started off very, very well on the second row of the grid alongside Johan Ferry, but it hasn't worked out for him so far. Not a single off circuit so far. Remember Jaco Steyn coming off the very back of the pack.
There was a bit of a nudge there from Johan Ferry saying, Francois Hubert, you better be careful, I'm on the move here. But luckily Francois Hubert got back into that position ahead as Johan Ferry now starts tumbling down. Oh, there must have been major contact there as Atti Nachel and Johan Ferry start tumbling down the order. We definitely missed something there in that. So let's have a look here. That's where the off was between. Oh, that was Francois Hubert that made contact there with Johan Ferry, and that sent him into a fishtail, and he just wiped out onto the grass, and that's going to take out Atti Nachel right there.
Yep, that creates Atti Nachel's off circuit, and that's a bit of a bad one. But then Gerald Ferry ran into a problem as well after that. So obviously his car wasn't handling 100%. I think Johan Ferry's got damage to that motor car, and the tap from behind the Shell Helix car of Gerald Ferry gets turned right around. Let's go back to the front end of the field. It's all about that man, Luc Lucchesi.
Yeah, Lucchesi keeping his nose clean at the front end of the field. I don't think he wants a repeat of what happened in the last couple of races, being on that limit, sending the car into tailspins off the circuit. And somebody else loses. That's Jan Sparmers that loses the tail end of that Porsche, and he starts tumbling down the order as well. But Peter van der Spey had a good start. He's worked his way up into that 4th position ahead of Timothy Stanton.
Yep, let's see if we can pick up that incident of Jan Sparmers as he worked his way through the... he picked up the inside curbstone, and unfortunately from there on out there's just no ways that you're going to save yourself, and that takes him out of it. So lap number 1 in the bag, and Luc Lucchesi doing what he does best, just get away at the front end of the pack. And I think that you'll find there in the mid-pack there by Timothy Stanton, I think that is going to be very, very close. Let's have a look at the intervals that we've got at this stage of the fight. The man that's on the move right now, Peter Hubert. Look at that one. He's up into that 3rd position, right in there behind brother Francois.
Yeah, Peter Hubert, he's worked his way up into that 3rd position ahead of Peter van der Spey. That front 3 breaking away from the pack. You've got 3 seconds between the leader and 2nd place. Then another 3 seconds between Peter Hubert and Peter van der Spey. Swys Hubert finds himself there in that 6th position. He's half a second off the pace of Timothy Stanton right there. That's basically the gap you see between them. That's how close it is between them. Johan Engelbrecht's in there as well. He sits there behind Andres Steenkamp and just about a second ahead of Sandro Bakari.
Yep, Sandro doing pretty fine at this stage of the fight. Is Sandro the leading Audi out there? Only 2 of them, Sandro and Leonardo Bakari, the 2 brothers. That's where the action is going to be with those cars, as Peter Hubert has got the hammer down, 0.7 of a second off of Francois Hubert as they work their way through lap number 2.
Yeah, through lap number 2 they go. It's Peter Hubert there. He's now starting to drop back a bit from Francois Hubert. Francois sitting in that second position as he's now gone down to about 9 tenths of a second off the pace there. Then Van der Spey in that fourth, but Willem Pinaar, he's out there in that 12th position in the Castrol BMW. He is about just under half a second behind Stephen McCarthy in the third Audi that is there in 11th position and ahead of the McLaren of Herman Lazarus.
Yep, Herman Lazarus putting up a pretty decent show there as they go under the NTT bridge. There you see, there's the start man that's actually still standing up there, trying to get a bird's eye view, and I think you'll watch most of the race from there because that's where it's going to be. And now you work your way down towards turn number 1. 2 gears down, clip that curbstone on the inside through underneath the Orions bridge, and it's flat foot all the way through, late on the brakes on the outside, early apex on this one for him. He should have actually apexed just a little bit later than that, and while he's doing a pretty decent job right now, that Audi's not exactly pulling away in front of him, and slightly different colours today for Stephen McCarthy.
Yeah, Stephen McCarthy doing all he can to stay ahead there of Willem Pinaar, but he's also trying to stick to the back end there of Robbie Teings. Robbie Teings in that Teings Bolt BMW sitting in that 10th position. That is that battle that you see out there for 10th, 11th and 12th. But Davy Hubert, he's right on the case there of Gerald Maget in the Golf Mercedes ahead of him as they battle it out there to try and get past Herman Lazarus as well to get to the back end there of Willem Pinaar. And all while they're doing that, they're pulling away from Colin Plitt.
Yep, no doubt about it. Well, there's not that much if you look at it. A lot of the guys, probably almost half of them, are within a second of whoever is in front of them. So tantalizing as you come through that corner. There's so many different lines that you can take, and you've got to feather the accelerator all the way through. Now it's flat foot all the way. Now listen to this one. He won't lift off at all. Clip the curb, drift it towards the outside, hold it flat. Now you go into a blind left-hander, and yet a second blind left-hander, but now you're going to have to go from 6th gear down to 5th, down to 4th, down to 3rd, down to 2nd gear. You'll see there's a lot of extra runoff on the outside of the circuit there. Once again, going through a blind rise, you've got to guesstimate where that curbstone is on the outside, and as you come through the very last corner, you see there's a long runoff area. Oh, somebody's gone off. That must have been
somebody's gone off. That's Andre Steenkamp.
Or Steenkamp, one of the two. Well, first of all, it was Renier Hubert that ran into a problem. Let's see what happened with Renier. I think he just pretty much overran it. I think he was trying to do a bit of a catch-up. Yep, the Porsche deciding that the tail end wants to lead from the front end. Leonardo Beccari had an incident as well, and he took the Audi completely off the circuit. And he'll have to try and get that one back on track again. Let's go back to the live, and it looks like Willem Pinaar is in fact already into the pits, so trying to fix up the problem there. And then Renier Hubert, after that off that he had, is in there, and then Leonardo Beccari, he's standing in the pits at the moment. So for the first man to work his way after a pit stop out of the pits, there he comes now. That's Sander Beccari. He'll drop it down to that 7th position. But now keep in mind, we're 7 minutes 17 in. They started on 25 liters, and we know there's a very big window for them to be able to do the refueling. But I think they're going to make it until the end from here. FC, let's go from the top down. Luke Lucchese from the front row of the grid. What a boykie.
Yeah, Lucchese doing what needs to be done there from the front row, and he's worked his way around the circuit flawlessly. He's already pulled a 5-second gap between himself and Francois Hubert in that second position. But while we're saying that, my eye just caught Peter van der Spey tumbling down the order from around about 4th position. He's all tumbled all the way down to 12th, now 13th. It doesn't look like he's in the pits, but I think he's got trouble. Peter Hubert sits there in that 3rd position, half a second behind the 2nd place man. Let's have a look here what happened. Was there contact between him and Stanton? Yes, it looks like there was. And then more contact. Oh, hard contact there as Johan Engelbrecht goes into the side of that Porsche.
Well, it looked quite fine at that stage, the fight for Johan Engelbrecht. It was all good. He comes into that blind corner, and all of a sudden, bang, there's a car standing right in front of him. He had nowhere to go from there, and that takes him pretty much out of it. Suez Hubert into the pit area, Stephen McCarthy into the pits as well. And going past them is Gerald Farise. He moves up past Swayze and Stephen. But I must say, Timothy Stanton finds himself in the top 5, a little distant from Pity Hubert. But let's have a look at the pit stops to date. Who's been in and who has not? The leading man that's been in, Swayze Hubert. Keep an eye on him.
Yeah, Swayze Hubert, the highest man up there, but he'll be tumbling down a little bit more as the rest of the guys with 0 stops so work their way past, like Sandra Bakari. But as you said, Swayze Hubert is the man that's the highest placed on the log so far. Ati Nachel busy working his way around the circuit as Johan Engelbrecht desperately tries to get that battered Mercedes to the pits. He is in the pit lane now, but Ati Nachel has now moved past the likes of Swayze Hubert. He's brought with him Jaco Steyn. Those are your highest placed pit stoppers, I can say, while the guys all ahead of them still need to make their stop.
Well, I must say Ati Nachel made use of whatever was happening around him and stayed out of the problems. If we have a look at his passing maneuver when everybody was in the pits, that's where he picked up numerous positions as well. As, looks like Gerald Machain just ran into a problem. He in fact went off track. Let's have a look at that one. Gerald Machain in the golf-colored Mercedes. Oh, just a little bit too quick on the gas, and the tail end stepping out. But I don't think he got too much damage there. Gerald Fourie, look at that one, all over the back of... Oh, Colin Plitt. He's going to look left and right to see if he can get through there.
Yeah, Colin Plitt's in trouble here because Gerald Faurie's on the move. He's going to dive for the inside. Has to jump on the brakes there not to collide there with Colin Plitt. Plitt riding very, very defensively in that 7th position. He's going to make that Porsche as wide as he can, but you're not going to keep Gerald Fourie behind you for too long. He leaves the door slightly open. Fourie fancies a chance, but he's got to back out of it and wait for another chance going up the straight there, down into the pits goes both of them.
There we go. And well, if he looks on the left hand side, you can see the wall's pretty high, so he doesn't have to endure watching cars go past him. But the pit lane limiter coming, and just about everybody is running into the pits. Look at this: Francois Hubert, Peter Hubert, Timothy Stanton, Robbie Teens, they're all in there. Herman Lazarus, Colin Plitt is in as well. Gerard Fourie is on his way into the pits as well. Andre Steenkamp, Sandra Bakari in there as well. So just about everybody except for Luke Lucchese.
Well, Luke, he didn't come into the pits at all. But so that leaves him to do a pit stop still with everybody else having dived into the pits there. That puts Francois Hubert in that 2nd position. He's 48 seconds down the road now because he still he needs to catch up to Luke now, who still has to do a pit stop. But everybody's starting to make their way out of the pits. Did Gerald Fourie get past Colin Plitt in the pit stops? Yes, he did. Gerald Fourie leapfrogging Colin Plitt in the pit stop.
Remember, Gerald Fourie did start on the 2nd row of the grid alongside Johan Fourie. Oh, look at this. Oh, just working the way around the outside. Andre Steenkamp says, let me just get past Mr. Hubert here while the going is good. And, well, he brings a whole train of cars through with him. And right around on that outside line, that Martini car sitting nice and tight. Andre Steenkamp finds himself very much in the traffic. There you can see Luke Lucchese, the number 1 that's on his way up the front main. That means that Luke Lucchese is not going to be diving into the pits. I lie. Luke Lucchese on his way into the pits. So who's next up? The next man that's going to be coming through there is in fact this man, but he's quite a long way back, and I think Luke Lucchese might get in and out of the pits and not lose a position.
Yeah, well, look, Luke was on a flyer before they all dove into this. He had about a 6-second lead ahead of Francois Hubert when Hubert dove into the pits. So I do think Luke's going to be safe with this one. He's going to come out just ahead there of Francois Hubert. Hubert's going to try everything he can to get that AlphaTauri BMW ahead of Lucchese. Don't discount him just yet, but I do believe Lucchese is safe.
Well, here he comes now. You'll see the number 2, the green number 2, coming out into the straight. Is Luke Lucchese still standing still? Luke Lucchese pulls away. So, Luke Lucchese pulls away. Where is Francois Hubert? I don't see him coming through yet. So, Francois Hubert is still a little bit further back. There, Francois Hubert comes now. And, well, I think Luke Lucchese's done it all right. 13 minutes, 17 seconds into it. That's just past halfway. Luke Lucchese in and out of the pits. Francois Hubert 10 seconds off at this stage of the fight in that AlphaTauri sponsored car. There comes Pity Hubert In there behind Pidi Yube is Atinachel. Not that far behind is Timothy Stanton. Probably in the top 5, Timothy Stanton, one of his best to date. But the silent assassin, Jaco Steyn. Look at
Jaco
that.
Steyn's been very quiet. I actually forgot he was in this race as well,
Yes.
because he came off the back end of the field, didn't do anything major, but all of a sudden he finds himself in that 6th position in the number 88 Porsche, and I do think Jaco might be on the hunt there for that 5th place of Timothy Stanton.
And he's been into the pits as well, so that's pretty interesting. Let's see what lap he actually went into the pits, did Jaco Steyn. Maybe that made a difference. Oh, lap number one.
Yeah.
How's that for tactics? It just shows if you help with the setup of the whole race, you know exactly who, where, and how to do it. So lap number 1 was when he went in, and that must have been a pretty quick stop. Let's look at the gains and the losses as we ride on board with Luke Lucchesi.
Yeah, so your biggest gainer is Jaco Steyn, who started in that 23rd position, gained 17 positions. And then one of the biggest losers, Johan Fourie, that had that coming together right at the beginning of the race. He's dropped down 16 positions. Graham Stevens also had bad luck out there. He's dropped all the way down to 23rd. He dropped down 14 positions there. Some of the other big gainers, Robbie Teens gained 7, Willem Pienaar actually gained 8 positions, and Herman Lazarus and Colin Plitt also 7 positions gained.
Well, the beautifully spray-painted look of that motor car of Luke Lucchesi as he works his way down towards turn number 1. He's got this one pretty one waxed as he works his way through turn number 1. And there he comes towards turn number 2 and doing a lovely job of it. We are 15 minutes into this 25-minute race, and the closest battle out there right now is in fact the battle of Colin Plitt. Colin Plitt, and he's in there behind Herman Lazarus, and well, he goes into the pit. Is that not then his 2nd pit stop? Let's just try and pick that one up. He's been in before.
That is his 2nd pit stop.
Well, then he must have gone in pretty early. And you'll see there the Golf Mercedes-Benz comes past him, so that means that's Gerald Maget that's just gone past. There goes Sandro Bakari, that goes past him as well, so that's going to drop him quite a long way down. The closest battles out there now are all outside of a second. Gerald Maget having a pretty decent run to date, and I think that he'll be pretty chuffed with this one. Right out of it at the bottom end is Graham Stephen. There's something definitely went wrong for Graham Stephen, and Leonardo Bakari finds himself completely out of it as well. Colin Plitt into the pits there. You see a lovely shot of the pit lane, and he is the man that's come in for his 2nd stop alongside the likes of Ranieri Bear and Leonardo Bakari. But it looks like Stephen McCarthy is getting a whole heap closer, and that to the back end of Willem Pienaar.
Yeah, Stephen McCarthy in the Sprite Audi seems to have got a bit of a firecracker up his back end and started to pick up the pace there, getting closer and closer to Willem Pienaar. Brought it down from about a 2nd to 6/10 of a second now. Now it's gone to half a second. He is chasing down that BMW of Willem Pienaar. Pienaar might be in trouble soon.
I think so. Let's have a look at the latest lap times that the guys have done. That'll give us a bit of an indication. Oh yeah, look at that. A 204.7 for Stephen McCarthy, a 206 for the man that is chasing down, a 206.3 in fact for Willem Pienaar. Yeah, FC, I agree with you. I think Willem Pienaar's got a problem, and that problem's called Stephen McCarthy.
Yeah, definitely Stephen McCarthy's right there on the back bumper of that BMW, and we might see a challenge. And I think Willem Pienaar made a mistake somewhere because he lost a lot of time compared to Stephen McCarthy. McCarthy no slouch in that Audi, but to take that bigger chunk out, the guy ahead of you had to make a mistake somewhere, and now it's just all about adding the pressure. He's right on that back bumper. He's going to dive for the inside. He's got the slipstream going down to the main straight into turn number 1. It's going to be who's the bravest on the brakes. They both brake, but he's got the inside line is Stephen McCarthy, and he moves up into P10.
Well, it wasn't an easy one whatsoever, and he had to really work for that, but he's made it stick. There you can see, and oh, looks like Pienaar's gone off. Pienaar went off the circuit. Willem Pienaar has been squeezed maybe a little bit towards the outside. Let's just see how that one played out.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, they actually made a bit of contact, and there was no getting away from that one, unfortunately. Well, it was all good intentionally. Unfortunately, that was not the way that he wanted it to end up. So Gerald Fourie all of a sudden comes into play, and Gerald Fourie finds himself not that far behind Stephen McCarthy. Now, Stephen McCarthy at 204.8 on the last lap, and now Gerald Fourie to within 0.3 of a second at 203.8, so literally a tenth of a second quicker on the last time around, and he's right in there behind our Kuldrin car.
That's not a tenth of a second. That is a full second quicker than Stephen McCarthy. There is Gerald Fourie. So that BMW is on the hunt now. That is going off to the Audi blood of Stephen McCarthy. And yeah, he's right on that case. He's going to start applying the pressure. You might find that Stephen McCarthy will have a chat with the COC after the race and get some penalty for that one. We saw at the last race that we had here last week, where Luke Lucchesi was involved in something. He put up his hand, he said, sorry guys, I was at fault, took the punishment like a true gentleman, and back out there and leading this race with a 12-second lead.
Surprisingly enough, the man with the fastest overall speed anywhere looks like a 265, and that shared between Francois Joubert and Gerald Maget, which basically is coming out of that last corner where you just saw them now and getting very good drive from there, and that's how you pick up that very good top speed. Gerald Fourie getting closer and closer.
Yeah, Fourie is on the hunt. He's right on the back bumper of that Audi. Now he's going to do the same move. Early in the brakes goes Stephen McCarthy, and Gerald Fourie had to jump on the brakes, made contact with him there, and
how's
just
that for sportsmanlike?
Hands back the position.
That I like. That is the epitome of what we've seen being created in the Sports and GT Masters over an extended period of time. Sorry, I made a mistake. I back off. I give you the position, and we carry on from there. Andre Steenkamp not worried about that. He's on the attack with Sandro Macari.
But I tell you, who's got a big smile on his face because of that contact there? It must be Herman Lazarus, because he's now joined that fight as well there behind Gerald Fourie. But as you said, Gary, Andre Steenkamp on the hunt now. He's right there behind Sandro Macari. He's going to go for the outside move as they go into turn number 3 through the corner. Ooh, goes very wide, goes Andre Steenkamp. Backs out of that move.
Is that what referred to as too far outside?
Yeah,
it's like off the track.
A little bit.
Just a thought. Well, he had a pretty good go at it, make no mistake. But let's go back to Gerald Fourie. Gerald Fourie right in there behind Stephen McCarthy. Herman Lazarus, you'll see him. There he is at cheapercars.co.za in his favorite color, the light blue color, as he works his way through. 21 minutes, 11 seconds down. And where's the cheese man? Mr. Luke Lucchesi, and he's up front.
Yeah, going into turn number 1 tonight, he's not the cheese man. He is Mr. Luke Lucchesi, not putting a foot wrong out there in the lead of this race. 12.7 seconds between himself and Francois Joubert coming down the main straight into turn number 1 now. Then Peter Joubert sits there in that third position with the Mercedes. Then Atti Nagel in the Porsche, followed by Timothy Stanton, who's having a blast of a race out there in 5th.
One of his best for quite a long time. Jaco Steyn, the man on the move, worked his way all the way through and ahead, in fact, of big names like Swayze Joubert and the man behind him, the Bolt man, Robbie Teens. Man that I got a tap on the shoulder at Killarney International last year at the 9 hour, and he said, hi, you don't know who I am, do you? So I said, to be very honest, I haven't got a clue. So he says, the comeback kid, Robbie Teens, and what a fantastic guy to have a chat with. Nice to see that Robbie's up inside of the top 10, but his problems for the next 2.5 minutes is probably going to go by the name of Jan Spammers.
Yeah, Jan Spammers in the red and black Porsche as he's making his way closer and closer to the back end there of Robbie Teens. That is going to be the next close battle. But I see Gerald Fourie is so close. He must be making a move there on Stephen McCarthy. There he does. He does. If you look at the leaderboard, there he goes. Up on the inside is Gerald Fourie on Stephen McCarthy. That's the replay of how that happened. Went for the inside line. McCarthy just ran it a bit wide, opened up the door, and you can't do that in front of Gerald Fourie.
No, definitely not. But then again, Stephen McCarthy, you saw, was involved with that incident earlier on, and making sure that it doesn't go all pear-shaped whatsoever. Willem Pina down in 19th position. That's not where we're accustomed to seeing Willem Pina, and he's getting himself a little bit close to the back of Jan Engelbrecht. But remember, Jan Engelbrecht was the man that had the problem, the incident earlier on that dropped him a long way down.
Yeah, that's going to be a close battle as well. But you were speaking about a close battle a little bit earlier on there, Jan Sparmers and Robbie Teings, and that looks like Sparmers is on the move because he is literally 0.2 of a second there off the back end of Robbie Teings. I do predict that that's going to be the next big fight.
Well, if you think they're 23.5 minutes into it, this is probably, this will be the last lap then that they will be on, depending on how far in total they are behind Luke Lucchesi. I think when Luke Lucchesi, let's see, where is Luke
Well,
Lucchesi
Luke's on his
right
way
now?
to turn number 3 right now, so yeah, this will be the last lap.
Yeah, if you think that 23.53 and the length of a lap, so this is pretty much the last lap for not the Cheeseman, Mr. Luke Lucchesi, doing it all right, and he's very much involved with the setups for the different vehicles at all the different races, and he's very quick to see where the cars are bottoming out and where you're having problems with the ride heights of the cars, where they're messing up the barge boards or very high tire wear, etc, etc. So it's working pretty well.
Yeah, he's on his way to a victory here as he works his way through that corner section. That's turn number 10 that he went through there now, right at the end of the carousel. Then he's going to go straight into the kink. That's turn number 11. Works his way down Kettle Bottoms towards Canada Corner. It's all downhill slope there as he works his way towards turn number 12. Here it is, Canada Corner. Last time he'll be coming through here in this heat race. Then he's going to work on to turn number 13. Then one more corner to go. That is corner number 14 before he heads on to the main straight and towards the checkered flag.
Well, I think you'll be super duper chuffed with this one. He's did it all right. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And he takes a clean sweep as he works his way up the hill and up towards the starter cam, our start finish line. And there he comes through. A lovely drive once again by Luke Lucchesi.
Yeah, brilliant drive out there. 14 seconds between him and this man, the AlphaTauri BMW of Francois Hubert. He crosses the line in that second position. 3.7 seconds down the road, the Merc of Peter Hubert will cross in third. Then Ati Nagel just 1.9 seconds behind him in fourth, with Timothy Stanton bringing the BMW over the line in fifth position.
Yep, I think you'll be pretty chuffed with that one as well. One of Timothy's best results for a long time. Swayze Hubert, Jaco Steyn up into the top 10. Brilliant stuff from Jaco Steyn as Robbie Teens comes across the line. There was nothing much between Robbie Teens, Jan Sparmers and Gerald Ferree at the end of the day.
Yeah, Gerald Ferree will be crossing the line there ahead of Stephen McCarthy in 10th and 11th. Herman Lazarus, the next man through in the McLaren in that 12th position, with Peter van der Spey crossing the line in 13th, with Gerald Maget, the next man through in the Golf Mercedes.
Yep, I think you'll be pretty chuffed with that result as well. Well, Gerald Maget, Sandro Bakari and Andre Steenkamp, nothing much between the two of them. The recovering Johan Ferree in the monster car, coming out with a BMW up towards the start-finish line and not being able to make much of a recovery, having lost massive amounts of time from that initial incident that he was involved in. He comes across the line. There comes Johan Engelbrecht underneath the Chevrolet and NTT bridge, and Johan Engelbrecht brings with him Willem Pina and David Joubert, the last man coming through, and the Petronas and HP sponsored BMW. There he comes now for the last time up the hill. He's the last man on the circuit, and I see right towards the end here there was a incident for Colin Plitt, and he actually went into the pits, and you can see he's now standing on the pit exit as such. So that wraps up heat number 1, a 25-minute race that they had. And in the not distant future we'll be going straight back to the grid once again. Let's see if we can maybe pick up that Heat 1 result, if it will give it to us. Doesn't look like the computer's wanting to give it to us. Oh, there we got Heat number 1. Let's just have a look at the grid that we come up for Heat number 2. And Luke Lucchesi, Francois Hubert. Yep, that means that that's going to give you the starting positions where they ended. So Jaco Steyn off the back of the pack up to 7th in Heat number 1 starts now on the 4th row of the grid.
Yeah, he'll be sitting with a big smile on his face because of that, because this gives him a lot more to work with to get closer to the front end of the field. But your grid is Luke Lucchesi and Francois Hubert. That is your original two front row starters. Behind them, Peter Hubert has worked his way up into row number 2 with Ati Nachel, Timothy Stanton and Swys Hubert on row number 3 with Jaco Steyn and Jan Spalmers on row number 4, and row number 5 made up of Robbie Teings and Gerald Fourie.
Keeping in mind, Gerald Fourie started alongside Johan Fourie on the second row of the grid. Now finds himself rounding out row number 5. Stephen McCarthy from Herman Lazarus, Peter van der Spey, Gerald Mouget and Sandro Bakari rounding out the top 15.
Yeah, then you've got Andre Steenkamp in that 16th position with Johan Fourie. He's going to have an uphill battle to work his way through the pack from that 17th position. Davy Hubert is there behind Johan Engelbrecht and alongside Willem Pinaar. Then you've got Reinier Hubert, Leonardo Bakari, Colin Plitt, Graham Stephen and Eugene Minuk.
Yep, that brings the whole lot together. The difference now, FC, is that Johan Fourie had a big gap between himself and the best of the rest. Now he's right there in the pack. And if anybody can work his way through the pack, it's the likes of Johan Fourie and Mr. Luke Lucchesi.
Yeah, definitely. But Johan Fourie's going to have his work cut out for him. It's not a slow pack that is ahead of him in this race. Lucchesi's going to have a good run. Francois Hubert's going to really try to stick it there with him. But I've got my eye on what Jaco Steyn can do from that 6th or 7th position.
I think I'm going to agree with you on that one. I think he's going to be the man to watch. Let's have a nice full screen view of what's happening out there. Road America season number 7, race number 8, Sports and GT Masters. What we love to do on a Wednesday night. Somebody forgot to cut the trees after they created that camera position. But hopefully we'll get a view of the boys. There we go. As we get past the overlap of the trees, the front end of the grid, Mr. Luke Lucchesi leads them out. His teammate Francois Hubert, Peter Hubert, Ati Nachel, and remember we opened with Ati Nachel and we said the success story of the season, up into 4th position for the start of this race. Timothy Stanton right in there as well, and I think they're going to be just desperately trying to hold on to what they gained at the beginning of tonight's racing.
Yeah, it's all still to play out for on the circuit in terms of points for the championship for season number 7. So the guys are really battling out there. Because I mean, if you take a look at it, the opening races of this season, you didn't have the high-scoring Johan Fourie's and Luke Lucchesi's out there. You had guys who were mid-pack most of the time. Then ended up taking the most points home for the day.
Yep, no doubt that this is going to be very, very interesting to see how this one plays out. The boys that's going to be on the move, well, FC, I think you're going to find there's going to be a couple of the guys that had errors in race number 1 that's going to work their way through. One of them being that monster car on the right-hand side of Andre Steenkamp, multiple South African main circuit champion, Johan Fourie. Man, it's actually resident just 2 kilometers from the Second Gear Production Studios and up in Plattekloof in the friendly city of Cape Town.
Yeah, he's going to be working hard to work his way through there, but he's going to work to get past guys like Steenkamp and to catch up to that second place man, Francois Hubert. And then you still have Ati Nachel, you got Swys Hubert in there, you got Jaco Spalmers, you got Gerald Fourie that you got to get past as well. So it's going to be an interesting final race for the night.
No doubt. I think we're in for is the right word a slobber knocker, or is it going to be hell on wheels?
Hell on wheels, a stonker of a race, call it whatever you want. It's going to be epic as they work their way around the circuit into the final corner. That Porsche is going to peel off into pit lane, and we're going to get the green flags and get them going. Gary Fleming, you take him off the line this time.
Well, there we go. We've got our favorite marshal, resplendent with his red headgear, with his iRacing suit on. And let's see, as they come up over the rise, it's going to be all systems go as they come up over the rise. There you can see the pace car has gone off, and it's just about good to go as they come up towards the line, and away we go. The green lights come on, and they go over the top of the rise, and here we see that massive pack. BMWs, Porsches, Mercedes-Benzes down into turn number 1.
Yeah, it's all to play for into turn number 1. Robbie Teings having a good start from that position as well. You see as the guys, somebody goes and does a bit of guarding. Was that for Johan Fourie? They went off there ever so slightly. But at the front of the field, it's all business as usual for Luc Lucchesi and Francois Hubert. Peter Hubert and Ati Nagel, they got off the line cleanly there. Timothy Stanton lost the position there to Swayze Hubert on the start of the race, but it's all systems go for the guys at the front.
Yep, no doubt about it. Luc Lucchesi, Francois Hubert, Peter Hubert. What a very quick duo that is. Now, if Ati Nagel is going to be a nomination for driver of the day, it's going to be up to him to hold on to that blindingly quick front trio, side by side, as they try to have a look up on the inside, on the outside. This is the easiest time in the race to actually make up passing maneuvers, because everybody is so close to one another. And I think we should go back to the front end of the field. Luc Lucchesi in that beautiful multicolored motor car as he works his way through Carousel and up towards the kink. Francois Hubert from Peter Hubert. And then Ati Nagel started on the second row of the grid, having worked his way through the pack up into fourth position in race number 1. And as they go through, using all the curbstones there and more, there's Ati Nagel. Right in behind him is Swayze Hubert. Swayze Hubert, the second of the BMWs out on circuit, and the third of the BMWs right in there behind him in Timothy Stanton. So Stanton's done a pretty decent job. He finds himself inside the top 8 for just about the full race number 1, and now he finds himself inside of the top 6 as well as they go into lap number 3.
Yeah, into the next
2.
lap number 2 actually. So what they're going to start now, as they're still on lap number 1 here, 2 minutes into this race, this 25-minute race, the final race for the night. It is Luc Lucchesi that leads them out there with a fastest time of 2 minutes 7.203. That is blindingly quick. It's a full second quicker than anybody else. That means that Lucchesi's already got a second on Francois Hubert from the start of this race. Peter Hubert in that third, followed by Nagel, Swayze Hubert, then Timothy Stanton in that 6th position, with Jaco Steyn in 7th, with Gerald Fourie. Look at Gerald Fourie, he's on the move. He's up into 8th.
Yep, and riding on board with Jaco Steyn, the leading car that's there in front of him is in fact Timothy Stanton. And in front of that is Swayze Hubert. You can see just about all of the cars in front of him. A Tantalized. Oh! He overdoes it. He overdoes it. He works it right to. Oh, and now he's going to lose it. Bang! He makes contact. Jaco Steyn has crashed, and he's taken Jan Spalmers with him as well. Jan Spalmers, unfortunately, was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there you can see he runs it wide. It comes back and loses the tail end. And he turns that man inside down, upside out, and that was Robbie Teams that had to take to the grass to get past there as well. So, and look at that, trying to get that car going again. I think that pretty much is going to be back to pits for Jaco Steyn. Jan Spalmers has in fact gone into the pits. There he sits in the pits right now, and that takes him out of it. Back to the front end of the field with Luc Lucchesi.
Johan Fourie had a good start to the race, worked his way up and lost a couple of positions again because of that situation. Almost got collected there by the car of Jan Spalmers, and he lost a couple of positions out there. But Ati Nagel, he finds himself in that 4th position. He sits there ahead of Swayze Hubert. Then we've got Timothy Stanton working his way around the field in that BMW, ahead of Gerald Fourie and Stephen McCarthy in 8th.
Yep, Stephen McCarthy just a little bit further back. There's Stephen McCarthy. And Peter van der Spey in behind him. The Boltman, Robbie Teams. I see a car diving in towards the pit lane.
That's Jaco Steyn.
And that is Jaco Steyn. Yeah, I think there's definitely too much damage to that motor car. He's not going to be able to carry on with that at any given pace. But as we said, 4 minutes 27 into the 25-minute race. They started with 25 litres, but they can refuel completely fat if they want to from there on out. And that means you've got a very big window that you can operate with, as Renier Hubert is starting to make up places.
Yeah, Renier Hubert busy working his way up in the Dulux Porsche. He sits in there right behind Herman Lazarus, starting to apply pressure on that McLaren as they work their way down the straight towards turn number 5. They just went through turn number 4. That's the Moraine sweep towards turn number 5. That's that left-hander, that hard left-hander. That's where the trouble happened in the previous lap between all the guys there, as Renier Hubert has done enough. He's gotten past Herman Lazarus.
That was actually a brilliant piece of driving that he made it look kind of easy if you look at it like that. Peter van der Spey also very close to the tail end of Stephen McCarthy.
Yeah, Stephen McCarthy in a bit of trouble there because Peter van der Spey is on the move. Just 3 to 4 tenths of a second off the back end there of McCarthy is Captain Pete. Timothy Stanton looks like he's on the move. He's getting closer and closer there to Swayze Hubert. It's down to 1/10 of a second. He's right on the back bumper of that Liqui Moly BMW. He goes for the inside. He's got to go hard on the brakes, but Stanton tries to squeeze in there. Hubert leaves him space, but Stanton deciding not to make the move and not to potentially taking himself or Swayze Hubert out.
Swayze left him a bit of space, but remember on the run up towards the corner, Swayze pretty much put it right in the middle of the track and left only a small margin for him to be able to try and have the passing maneuver. Let's have a look at BMW on BMW, these GT3s. How much do you gain by being in the slipstream? And it looks like it's pretty decent, but is it enough? No, it's not. On the first marker that comes up with the 4 cones, you'll see 4, 3, 2 as they work their way down into the turn number 1. You can see there was just not enough. So if he wants to get the passing maneuver, Timothy Stanton on a Swayze Hubert on this lap, or on when they get back to the front main, is going to have to be just a little bit closer.
Well, he's going to take a chance now. Hubert leaves him space. He goes up on the inside. They're side by side, and they've got Gerald Fourie that joins the party in another BMW M4 out there as they're battling it out there, but now he's on the wrong side of the circuit. He gets pushed out a little bit wide as Gerald Fourie has now got his nose up in there as well to be part of this fight.
Yeah, look at the in-car camera. You can see Gerald Fourie is right in there behind Timothy Stanton. Timothy Stanton's got to keep an eye on what's happening in front of him and what's happening behind him at this stage of the fight. And that's pretty... late on the brakes. You can see that... I think he actually got a bit of contact from behind, and unfortunately the bad news right now is this one.
Let's have a look here what happened with Johan Fourie. Oh, he's not having a good time out there in the BMW whatsoever. Got the tail end stepping out and then lost it and then got whacked even more, and he's just dropping further and further down the field. That's not a very comfortable looking BMW in the hands of Johan Fourie.
Unfortunately, there was another massive incident by the looks of it. Andre Steenkamp had a off circuit, and then I do believe Herman Lazarus was the next man coming along, and bang, nose to nose is Herman Lazarus. Unfortunately, Dawie Joubert then unwantedly arrives on the scene, not knowing what's happening further up on the circuit. Dawie Joubert comes around the corner and everything's happening right in front of him. Smacks bang into the back of Herman Lazarus, and that's pretty much going to take him out of that one. And now we find that Timothy Stanton is on his way into the pits, as well as Graham Stephen is also on his way into the pits as well. But back to the front end of the field, doing it all right, Mr. Luke Lucchesi.
It's lovely to see Luke be in a happy spot in the car, in a sweet spot in the car, keeping his nose clean and getting the best out of the car out in the lead of this race. Franz Hubert currently sits there in second position, 2.5 seconds behind him, with Peter Hubert and Atti Nagel. Nagel getting closer there to Hubert, but here's a bigger battle between Peter van der Spey, Stephen McCarthy and Robbie Teings.
Yep, very, very close between them. Stephen McCarthy behind Peter van der Spey, but Robbie Teings looks like he's going to have a look up on that inside line. Yep, he does. The Boltman, Robbie Teings. We'll probably see him down in Cape Town in the next 2 weeks for the 9-hour happening at Konnani International Raceway. The eyes in the sky, the man from Tiny Spitbox, he'll be up there calling the information and the shots on the radio for us at Konnani International, and he's in fact sitting here in the studio with us this evening as well. So Tiny, good evening to you. Thanks very much for joining us. He's been sitting with a big smile on his face and just pointing to the screen and say, see this, see that, look here, look there. He doesn't know how to not analyze a race and get the commentators to look into the right spot, because that's what he does on a professional level at Konnani International on a regular basis. Gerald Fourie in 5th position and closing on Swayze Hubert.
Yeah, Gerald Fourie is on the hunt in that BMW. BMW versus BMW for that 4th and 5th position. Gerald Fourie has had an exciting race meeting here so far, as the man in the AlphaTauri BMW, that is Francois Hubert, makes his way into pit lane. along with Swayze Hubert and Gerald Fourie.
Yep, they're all piling in. Petty Hubert decides this is the right lap to go. Stephen McCarthy in the Cool Drink car. There he comes, the Sprite man. And he dives into the pits, as well does Sandra Bakari. So let's have a look at the pit stops as they work their way in. Luke Lucchese finds himself nicely up front. Ati Nagel, even if it's only for one lap, can say I was actually in second position in season number 7, race number 8 in the Sports and GT Master Series, riding with the GT3s, the same car that we're going to be using for the MSA 2023. Look at that for a busy pit lane. It's Francois Hubert. He's one of the first people out. There's Petty Hubert that's in there as well. Swayze, all of them, they're going to be starting to move their way out of the pits now. Gerald Fourie is also coming out there, so he's going to recover a pretty decent position of the guys that have been into the pits. Johan Fourie in there as well. And that's the only spot that you can ride through somebody without getting nailed for it. That's where they are right now. So Luke Lucchese, Ati Nagel, Peter van der Spy. We haven't seen much of Peter out there on his own. He has not made any stops yet. Him and Robbie Teens. Robbie not that far behind him at all. You'll probably find the two of them will now both come into the pits next time they come around. There's Robbie Teens. And then a big gap back to the Francois Hubert car. But everybody from Francois Hubert down has already been into the pits. Can Luke, Ati and Peter come back out in front of the leading car that has stopped, being Francois Hubert?
Look, once again, I don't see it being a problem for Luke. I think Ati and Peter might have their hands full, especially Robbie Teens as well, as Luke goes into the pits now. But we've seen it time and time and again from Luke, where he is able to eke out that extra lap or two. When everybody else dives into the pits, Luke can squeeze out another lap or two at the same pace, if not faster, and get a nice sizable gap between himself and whoever is hunting him down, to then be able to go to do your pit stop and get out comfortably ahead of them.
So there you see the 5 with the green circle around it. That is Francois Hubert. That is where he is on circuit. You'll see all the other dots on the bottom straight. That is the guys that are all in the pits. So can Luke Lucchese come out in time to stay ahead of this man? He should be able to, but by now he should have actually been on the move already.
There he is.
Yes, he comes. And Ati Nagel is still there in the pits. There is Ati coming out, and here comes Francois Hubert.
Francois Hubert's on the move. He's already got hot tires. He's definitely going to make that position up on Ati. But Ati, I think Ati was one of the biggest gainers out there with this round of pit stops. He was, where was he, about 4th or 5th before the pit stops, and he now finds himself in that 3rd position.
And 7 seconds ahead of the top producing man out there tonight, Timothy Stanton. One of his best for a long time. Robbie Teens is right in there behind Peter van der Spy.
Yeah, Robbie Teens are right there behind Van der Spy. This is going to be a nice close battle here between the two of them as well for that 9th and 10th position. This is 4th position. Both of them have stopped. So this is going to be an all-out battle here as they work their way towards turn number 5. Into that turn they're going to go. It's going to be that left-hander who's going to be late on the brakes. Both of them brake pretty late, and different lines that they take through that corner, but it seems to be working for both of them.
Yeah, the overall pace into the corner, out of the corner, even though they're completely different lines, looked very similar. I think this Road America circuit in the GT3 cars, there's not only just one line that's going to make a whole heap of sense, and making a whole heap of sense right now is what that man's doing in the Dulux car, René Hubert, as he starts to hunt down Sandra Bakari.
Yeah, hunting down Sandra Bakari is René Hubert. He's had a pretty good outing here in this final race for the evening. It went a bit pear-shaped for him out in race number 1, but it's all coming together nicely out here as he sits there in that 12th position behind Sandra Bakari. Bakari in a bit of trouble there with the Audi not being as quick as what they thought it would have been compared to some of the other cars, as the Porsches and the BMWs definitely seem to be the cream of the crop out there, and René Hubert getting closer and closer to Peter van der Spy, to Sandra Bakari, but Robbie Teens getting closer to Peter van der Spy.
Yep, he's putting the pressure on at this stage of the fight. Is the bolt man Robbie Teens. You can see the gaps further forward. all of them within a second of one another. But Robbie Ting's 0.5. Let's see, can he close up on the louder car, sponsored car in front of him? Robbie Ting's getting closer and closer.
There is just under 10 minutes left in this race. 15 minutes, 30 seconds done and dusted as these guys battle it out. Robbie Ting's getting closer and closer. It went down to about 0.2 of a second between Ting's and Van der Spy. Van der Spy's got to place that Porsche just in the right position, not to lose a position there, because Robbie Ting's is on the move.
But look at that group of cars just in front of them as we get the shot. Let's see if we can get another shot of that one. Maybe we can get it from the left-hand front wheel. Look at that, in front of Peter van der Spy, Pieter Joubert, Jaco Steyn, and then Gerald Fourie is right in there as well. Gerald Fourie in behind Swys Joubert, and that's that whole group of cars that you can see directly in front. There they go, side by side, as they work their way through the corner. Gerald in the Shell Helix car, all over the back of the Liqui Moly of Swys Joubert. BMW versus BMW, just outside of the top 5 is Gerald Fourie. Remember, he started in race number 1 off the second row of the grid, and he's done a pretty decent job. Somebody just went off. That's
Ati Nagel.
Ati Nagel, wow, that was not expected. He's had a beautiful, crystal clean run up until now. Ati Nagel is getting faster and faster. Race for the back end. Well, they say if you ride these Porsches, if you ride it to the limit, it always feels like your car's trying to kill you. And well, that's because the motor sits at the back, the power coming from the rear wheel drive, and well, most of those Porsches, you find that they are very, very powerful, and you just climb on the loud pedal just a little bit too much, and you find yourself heading straight towards the scene of the accident if you don't know your car very well.
But Gerald Fourie looks like he's on the hunt there. He's behind Swys Joubert in the Liqui Moly car. The Liqui Moly car there of Joubert might be in trouble, because Gerald Fourie is getting ever so closer in the Shell Helix car. There's another battle happening here between Jaco Steyn and Pieter Joubert. Joubert would want to make up that position. He was not too happy to have dropped down that far. He goes and sits on the outside. That's not going to bring you anywhere close to a passing maneuver going through that corner.
Yep, unfortunately, whoever's in front of you is going to have to use all the way towards the curbstone. And a little bit further forward there, you see Gerald Fourie. Let's just get a battle box up there that we can have a look to see exactly is where. So that's Pieter Joubert. In front of him is Jaco Steyn, and in front of that, the man that you saw that just went off circuit, that's Ati Nagel. He started in 4th position. He's 2 places down and now finds himself in 6th. And that just, oopsie, that's running, or maybe that's a tactical maneuver to get the drive up the hill.
A lot of drivers are taking that extremely wide line through that corner.
Or they're braking too late and they can't get it to turn in time. That's why they end up over there. Also possible.
Yeah, but Pieter Joubert definitely having his hands full here with that Mercedes. Beautiful color scheme on that car, that gold into yellow, as he sits there behind Jaco Steyn. He's getting impatient. You can see he really wants to get past Jaco Steyn. There is Pieter Joubert, and it's starting to show in where he's running wide on the circuit.
He's using the curbstones, a little bit of the grass here and there. You see a bit of dust where you're watching somebody else that's nearby him. But now look into his rear view camera. That's Peter van der Spy, 1.6 seconds behind him. And that means he doesn't have to worry too much about what's happening there. He's got this beautiful calendar view of what's happening in front of him. Jaco Steyn, Ati Nagel right in there with Gerald Fourie and Swys Joubert. Any mistakes up front, 19 minutes into this 25-minute race, and Pieter Joubert is ready to pounce. But ready to pounce, Jaco Steyn.
Yeah, Jaco Steyn looked very much ready to pounce there on Ati Nagel. Just got the front right wheel off onto that grass section and dropped it back a bit again as Ati Nagel survives to live another day.
Is he going to have a look up on that inside line? Very possible. Nope, there you see, there's those cones we spoke about. 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, by that stage the fight, if you're not on the brakes, it's a little bit too late anyway, because you're going to be heading straight towards the scene of the accident. Jaco Steyn late on the brakes, 0.3 of a second in there behind Ati Nagel, 0.4 from himself back to the red car you see in front of that. That's the BMW of Gerald Fourie. And then just in front of that, Timothy Stanton and Swys Joubert is a little bit further forward. Timothy Stanton, you won't be able to see in this shot. He's a long way up the road, but you can there see Swys Joubert and all of them pretty much within 4 seconds of one another.
It's so close between this group of cars out there. I mean, you can literally see how close Ati Nagel is to Gerald Fourie in front of him as they work their way around Road America. And the slightest mistake from anybody could put 4 cars into the wall. That's how close they are.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say now the slightest mistake and there'll be a change of positions, and I was going to add to that, or put everybody in the wall. And yeah, either of the two is possible. 20 minutes, 40 seconds into this 25-minute race. You're riding on board with Jaco Steyn. For those of you watching us at home, thanks very much for joining us this evening. This is the second of our 2 races for tonight. This is our feature race. It's 25 minutes, and they are on lap number 10 right now with 4 minutes to go. Riding on board with Jaco Steyn, Ati Nagel having a look on the outside of Gerald Fourie, and now up towards the inside line, but that's not going to stick.
Yeah, that's not going to stick. Fourie shuts the door there in Nagel's face, as I'm not too sure that Gerald Fourie is too much worried about Ati Nagel. He's focused on that car ahead of him of Sway Subert, the Liqui Moly car of Sway Subert. That's where he wants to be. He wants to get past that one, and as long as he keeps racing, nobody behind him is going to be a threat to him whatsoever.
No, definitely not, and I think he'll be pretty chuffed with that. Let's just have a look at the downfall of Ati Nagel. It was going so well for Ati Nagel, probably his best event ever, not just in this season but ever, and just that small little error, a little bit too much back brakes, spins himself around, and that was what cost him very dearly. Otherwise Ati Nagel would have definitely been the biggest mover and groover today.
Oh, Gerald Fourie has made the pass. Sway Subert lost the position there and now is in the clutches of Ati Nagel. That's how it happened, coming down the main straight. Fourie got out of the slipstream, got up on the inside, and a brilliant passing maneuver up on the inside there of Sway Subert for Gerald Fourie.
Oh, there's just too many cars in too small the area. 3 minutes to go. Can they all keep it together? Jaco Steyn running very wide there. That's pretty much going to cost him. I cannot see that he could make up any ground with that one. He's got to be very careful because Pieter Joubert is sitting directly behind him, and Pieter Joubert looks like he's pretty much of the notion that he's going to be moving a little bit further forward.
Yeah, Pieter Joubert, if anybody would want to move forward, it is Pieter Joubert. He's also had a brilliant season so far.
Yes.
Scored a lot more points than what I think he thought he would have had by now in the season. And yeah, if he smells that blood in the water, he's going to try and make a move to get past Jaco Steyn. So mistakes like that cannot happen if you want to stay ahead of Pieter Joubert. Ati Nagel having a look at the back bumper there of Sway Subert. He's really close, going down that sweep, the Kettle Bottoms towards Canada Corner. He's up on the inside. There's contact. There's massive contact between Ati Nagel and Sway Subert.
Unfortunately, yeah, that one is going to be the one that we hoped wasn't going to happen. And once the contact started, both of them were ton up, and the Liqui Moly car buries itself into the wall. Sway Subert lightly into the wall. But as we said, just too many cars in too small the area. How long can it last? We stayed 3.5 minutes to go, and unfortunately jumping back to the pits with that one, and that's going to cost him very badly. Ati Nagel finds himself now in the pit lane, and what a pity, as Pieter Joubert is all over the back of Jaco Steyn. Lap number 12, just 1 minute to go.
Yeah, this is the last minute of this race. We are on the white flag already. Your race leader is working his way up towards turn number 6. So that means the next time he comes down the main straight, the checkered flag will be waiting for them. But a lot still to play for this man, Pieter Joubert. He's on the hunt there behind Jaco Steyn. He's right up on that back bumper, heading towards turn number 5. He's now going to move towards the outside. Going to try and make an outside move. He does it. Around the outside of Jaco Steyn goes Pieter Joubert.
Well, Jaco Steyn still had a pretty decent weekend, or the midweek, should I say. He's had a pretty good run out there. He won't be completely unhappy with that. But Mr. Lukhukhize, with a half a lap to go, he's done it all right.
Yeah, he's kept his nose clean. He's had a faultless evening here in round number 8 of the Sports and GT Master Series, and I think it's about time. He deserves an event like this where he knows he's the fastest. He doesn't have to drive it on the limit, and he doesn't have to put it into all kinds of compromising positions on the grid where you then get involved with incidents. So he's done it all right. He leads them by 8.3 seconds. Francois Joubert sits there in second, with Stanton in third and Gerald Fourie in fourth.
Yep, coming through behind General Fourie is Peter Hubert, and then Jaco Steyn directly in behind that, and not that far off in 7th position, Captain Pete. The 25 minutes is up. Luke Lucchese working his way around and taking the checkered flag.
Yeah, Lucchese wins it there. 8 seconds later, it is Francois Hubert that comes across the line in 2nd position. Then another 12 seconds down the line will be this man in the black and green BMW flashing his lights, Timothy Stanton. Welcome to the podium, my friend. Gerald Fourie in 4th, Peter Hubert 5th, followed by Jaco Steyn, Peter van der Spey, Robbie Teings, and then Sandro Bakari will be the next man with Graham Stephen. Oh, just not in time for Graham Stephen. Sandro Bakari takes home 9th with Stephen in 10th and Stephen McCarthy in 11th.
Yep, Johan Fourie not managing to make up all that many positions as we are accustomed to seeing him doing. Willem Pina up to 14th. Johan Engelbrecht finds himself in the 2nd race in the mid-pack as well. And behind him will come through Renier Hubert, David Joubert. There he comes up the hill as well, underneath the NTT bridge. He'll finish off his race for David Joubert. Andre Steenkamp, he's 2 positions down from where he started 16th and ended in 18th.
Yeah, Gerald Maget, the next person that will cross the line there, as Suez Hubert makes a very dapper move around the outside there of Maget to claim 19th. Maget getting demoted down to 20th. Then Herman Lazarus will bring that McLaren home in 21st. He is out there in that 21st position, coming down the main straight now towards the start-finish line as that flames starts spitting out of the exhaust system of the McLaren for Herman Lazarus in 21st.
Leonardo Bakari, well, I must say Herman Lazarus in the only McLaren, one of 2 Audis out there.
3
Leonardo
Audis.
Bakari, 3
Audis.
100%. You obviously passed grade 4. Hitting grade 5. Atti Nagel in 23rd position, 19 down. He must surely be very disappointed with that one. It's not what you would have expected at all. So let's have a look at the heat number 1 result. The one that we had earlier on, also a 25-minute race, was the Kizzy from Francois Hubert, Peter Hubert, Atti Nagel, and then Timothy Stanton. If we look at the final top 5 in the feature race, once again, Luke Lucchese heads them out.
Yeah, Lucchese taking top honours there once again. Francois Hubert in 2nd. And then Timothy Stanton, he's worked his way up into that 3rd position. Definitely one of my nominations for driver of the day. There is Timothy Stanton.
Well, 5th in heat number 1, and then going even closer towards the front. So, driver of the day, Timothy Stanton. Yep, got to agree with you. Gerald Fourie, a pretty decent session. Started on row number 2 for heat number 1. And he ended up in 10th position in race number 1, started in 10th position and worked his way very neatly up into the top 5.
Yeah, Peter Hubert ended the evening out there in that 5th position, dropped down a little bit. Jaco Steyn was in 6th with Peter Hubert in 7th, Robbie Teings in 8th. Then Sandra Bakari in 9th, and Graham Stephen having had a dismal first race out there, not even finishing the race, bringing it home in 10th position.
Yeah, that was a long way for him to come back from there, and it just didn't. In fact, I think Graham Stephen, let's see if we can pick him up in that heat number 1. Yeah, he wasn't.
He was out. He had a DNF, yeah.
So, yeah, quite a fight back coming from there. So that rounds out your top 10. Stephen McCarthy from Johan Fourie, even on the restart, not been able to move through the pack as he normally does. Colin Plitt from Willem Pina, Johan Engelbrecht rounding out the top 15.
Well, then you have Renier Hubert, David Joubert, Andre Steenkamp, Suez Hubert, Gerald Maget with Herman Lazarus, Leonardo Bakari, Atti Nagel, Jan Sparmers, and unfortunately Eugene Minuk not making it out onto the circuit.
Yeah,
in both heats.
Both of them, well, Jan Sparmers I think only did 2 laps, and that was the end of that. Eugene Minuk was right at the beginning that it didn't work out for him. So that wraps it up for our feature race, season number 7, race number 8. FC driver of the day, undoubtedly.
Yeah, Timothy Stanton. I mean, we haven't said that name in forever, and he comes back and he's got one of his best race meetings out there in amongst some of the biggest talent that you've got in South African iRacing. So yeah, definitely my driver of the day, Timothy Stanton.
A man that we can say star-studded performance. I would tend to think that the second of the Faris is the right man to mention there. Gerald Fourie,
Yep.
very good fight in there and thereabouts, not giving up whatsoever, and putting in a brilliant showing all around. I think for a star-studded drive, I think that's the man that I would tend to mention. And Luke Lucchese, well, as you said, he's not the cheese man today. He is
Yes,
Mr.
Luke
Luke
Lucchese.
Lucchese. On behalf of Second Gear Productions, FC Nivote, the man from Rage Productions, and Yo Stasi, a closing word from your side.
Look, it's always an honor and a pleasure to be able to sit here on a Wednesday evening and do this. We love motor racing, we love commentating, we love watching you guys race, and it was awesome, awesome stuff, and I can't wait for the next one.
From my side, Gary Fleming, I can't say drive home safely because you guys are sitting nice and snug at home watching these races. We'll see you at a racetrack somewhere pretty soon. And, well, if we don't, we'll get you back right here next week, Wednesday, same time, around about 7:45. We will be going live with the next round for season number 7. Race number 9 for Western Province Sports and GT Masters. From my side, Gary Fleming, good night to you, one and all.